start watching. But let me
Yeah,
share out. Yeah,
let's not say any bad words like some recent lies.
yeah,
Did you see
yeah.
that one?
No, what was that?
It was a really, really funny one. Quantum and the tech team, they were giving an
Yes.
update on platform,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody said to another person, "I think you're muted." And then he said a cuss word, and it came out
Yeah.
really, really clear live. It was really, really funny. It's one of those, newspaper moments,
Yeah.
kind of news anchor type of moments.
Yeah, it's funny because especially with news anchors, they're so like coming up next live on our story. They're just so, but then in their personal life, they're very much
Normal
like,
people, right? So
yeah,
yeah.
it's very strange. Like I can't imagine being two different people. I do tend to not swear on these podcasts, and I do tend to, you know, speak a
Tell people
little,
not to
yeah,
swear.
be speak a little less. Obviously can't like not super candidly, but like I talking to me here and talking to me in the real world is basically the same thing. I just might talk a little bit more smack in the real world, might drop more f bombs, but that's about it. One time commented, "We'll do it live." All right, so we have 9 people that are watching on Odysee. I don't know how many of those people are like watching, or just had the link open, and then 2 on YouTube. Um, so yeah, I I'm definitely looking forward to this. It's funny because uh, from like a biz dev perspective, from an outside perspective, there seemed to be just a lot less to talk about in previous times, and now there's just like a few things that have popped up, and yeah, there's always a bunch of things to talk about. But let me just roll the intro graphic, and then we'll just get officially right into this thing. So, hey everyone, happy Friday. Good to see you again. If I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, or if I just saw you like a few minutes ago for the last podcast. This is the Dash Podcast. I'm joined by the one and only Ernesto Contreras, head of business development for Dash Core Group. How's it going, man?
Hi, Joel. It's going great. I'm a bit cold now in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
Winter is almost been finished, and for some of you more to the north guys, you're probably gonna laugh that I'm complaining about my very cold 9 or 10 Celsius degrees. But trust
Yeah,
me, I feel cold.
it's definitely in the negatives here, but more importantly, tomorrow there's a significant snowstorm. I think it might get up to 24 inches of snow. So like that's 12, like 24, like this much snow, just big. So basically, I won't be able to see my car tomorrow morning. So
All right.
that'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, an interesting fact that I've learned is that some mildly cold places you feel more cold because they don't have as good heating.
Yeah.
And I was just in Ukraine. I was in Ukraine just last year,
Mm-hmm.
and in winter you actually feel cold because they have very good heating system, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very powerful. So
Yeah, because they
that's
don't want to
that's
die.
fun.
Because you do
Well, yeah,
die
that's
if
that's
that.
a good reason, right?
And similarly, in I believe Phoenix, Arizona, has some of the lowest instances of heat-related death in the whole world, despite being like an oven. Like you open the door, it's like you opened your oven. So it's probably because they're very well prepared for that. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So for everyone, if you want to ask Ernesto a question, there's a few that are queued up privately that I'm going to go dig into after we go through our main
Cool.
things and see if we have some time for that. It's not going to be a super long one because he did pinch in last minute to jump on to replace Arden. Like I announced that Arden was going to be on, talk about marketing, and then like an hour later, she's like, she had an issue, so we had to switch this thing out last minute. So very grateful that Ernesto was able to do this on short notice. And so if you want to ask any questions, you can go to cointr.ee/the desert links, throw a little bit of dash in, and I'll pop them up. All the other questions get to the back of the log. So with that being said, one time says it's a sunny 76 degrees here. Wow. Not everyone can live there. But anyway, so what have you guys been up to as far as Dashcore Group business development recently? I've noticed a few other partnership announcements and things like that that have come through recently that seems to be an uptick in activity. So why don't you just give like the big overview of what you guys have been working on and some cool stuff that's happened recently?
Yeah. Well, since we last spoke in October, um, we've had a series of interesting changes. I I believe uh, we had our newest addition to the BD team in the first
Mm-hmm.
days of October. So Bruno Contardi has been the manager for LATAM
Mm-hmm.
since Q4. And what this has done is that we've started to work a bit more on newer verticals. We as of now we're working on four verticals. They are trading, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go over details later. But they're
Mm-hmm.
trading. We continue doing a lot of stuff and very cool stuff in Venezuela. We're starting to do a lot more in neobanks, and we are starting also to reach and look for more activity in the U.S. payments space.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the four verticals where we believe we have a great chance of getting traction. And more specifically, in the past quarter, we've gotten some very good advances in the neobanks sphere. And what's happening is that globally, there's a lot of challengers to the banks. There's a lot of people that realize now they can make an app, and customers, I'm sure you're not even one of them because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a bank account, but customers, like most people, they're like, I don't want to go to a bank. I want to be able to manage my accounts and my money and everything from my app. So there's a lot of these neobanks, and they're more nimble, they're more flexible, and of course, many of them are willing to start doing things with
Mm-hmm.
crypto. So, especially in Brazil, because Brazil has a lot of neobanks, we've
Mm-hmm.
gotten about maybe a dozen conversations. And from
Yeah.
there, I think soon we'll start to see some results if there's no big, you know, delays on that front. In Venezuela, we've continued to grow. We've had some important delays. One of them was that, as you know, last year, the CEO of CryptoBuyer, who was a great friend and a great
Mm-hmm.
uh, driver of adoption in Venezuela, passed away. So, with
Yeah, that
them
was very sad.
restructuring,
He's been on
yeah,
this podcast before too, I believe.
yeah. Jorge will rest in peace. So, I mean, with CryptoBuyer reviewing how to continue moving forward, and they are. We've continued working, and especially we've done a lot of work that's kind of underground in terms of we've worked a lot with the payroll solution. And there was
Mm-hmm.
recently a question about Dash Text. I don't know if you remember, Dash Text allows you to send an SMS with Dash,
Yes.
and they had a feature in which you could donate money, and then they could get all those donations, and once per day distribute them to 50 different kids so they could buy
Mm-hmm.
food. That same
Yeah.
functionality they pivoted for HR. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're working with them, and they're getting all the legality part finished and everything, so that that same principle can be used to disperse part of bonuses for employees. So we've done that, and of course, we've continued to work with the biggest retailers that we can in Venezuela. And I'll give more of this in the quarterly call.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, we've also done, like I said, a bunch of things in Brazil, and we've also shifted a bit more of our attention in the U.S. from other activities into neobanks and payments companies. We've had a couple of conversations with some of the largest payments company in the US, and there is one very big company um, that announced that we're going to start looking at crypto, and we've reached out and we've started to talk to some of them. And what I can tell you is that in the US, in the Western world, to call it that way, many of the largest payments and legacy organizations are looking to start doing stuff with crypto, not necessarily in the payment space initially, but
Mm-hmm.
they want to start doing the things that are within their core businesses. So, for example, if you're a company that allows um, people to buy and sell currencies, then they want
Mm-hmm.
to evaluate how they can allow buying and selling of cryptos for some of the customers. And then when there are companies that work empowering small and medium businesses by setting up their websites, they want to find out ways that they can easily use that core business proposition for doing something with crypto. I think the overall sentiment, especially in the developed world, is that crypto is here to stay,
Yeah, of
and
course.
there's just more and more things happening with crypto. The DeFi summer was really good for the crypto people, but the NFT moment is just basically going mainstream, and you have all these artists and all these
Mm-hmm.
non-crypto people doing something with what some call JPEGs, but other just call, a proof of ownership. But regardless of that, that's putting crypto in front of many, many people, including regulators, banking people, and business people. And there's no doubt that that's going to happen. So in the US, we've shifted more to that. And in general, for us in Dash in business development, and I've been doing a lot of internal searching and thinking, where can we go next? And it's all about how do we get all this real usage, and how do we get integrated into some of the functionalities that the people are demanding. And
Yeah.
that's why maybe you have seen that we're not pursuing a lot more of exchanges, because there's not that many more exchanges that we can get added to.
Of course. Maybe DeFi
So
protocols, but good thing is Thorchain. I can't say it's for sure, but it seems to be very likely to happen as the king daddy of cross-chain native swap and automated market making protocols. So that's good.
that's amazing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a user and a big fan
Mm-hmm.
of Thorchain, and I'm sure you are as well. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you some context that you probably don't have, because
Mm-hmm.
I know you're unbanked. I've tried sending Dash to three of the fastest exchanges that credit Dash, including
Mm-hmm.
the largest one in the world, including one that's here in Mexico that does one confirmations, and Thorchain. And then
Mm-hmm.
changing that Dash into another coin. Sometimes when I want to cash out in certain places, for example in El Salvador, and we'll talk more
Mm-hmm.
about that, these ATMs, they didn't carry Dash, but they had Litecoin or they had Bitcoin Cash or whatever.
Yeah.
So I tried doing that exercise and saying, well, what if I have a Dash and I want to send it to an exchange, change it for this other not slow coin, and then withdraw it? And man, Torchain was by far a much faster and
Mm-hmm.
inexpensive experience than any of these other exchanges. So I'm really excited about Torchain, and what I see there is that, and number one, uh, congratulations. I know you've been a
Mm-hmm.
big pusher and proponent of this.
Oh yeah.
And what I love is that it's been a community effort. It's not like just one person doing it. It's, I see you tweeting a lot and
Of
tagging
course.
everyone that you can. And then I see the guys from the div buying
Mm-hmm.
some torch, some runes so they can stake it when the time comes. And then I've seen on Discord, Rion
Mm-hmm.
and other guys from the different hubs working on it. And of course, my God, I forgot his name. I'm sorry. The developer from Canada, Ash, doing a
Yes.
lot of
Ash.
work to get this done. And everyone that I might forget, I'm sorry for this, but this is one of the most recent times when I've seen Dash community working and rallying for something in a nice way, and that's another reason that I'm really excited about Torchain with Dash.
Yeah, and that's kind of the overall kind of context in all of this is cryptocurrencies have, and this a lot of his personal opinion, but whatever. Cryptocurrencies have in the early days largely been community driven because it's just like some random developer like Satoshi drops a bunch of code, people run stuff, and then that's it. And then it's up to the users and fans to really drive the adoption engine forward, to build all kinds of things, to do business partnerships and things like that. And then we hit the age where, Dash as a DAO can't actually pay people to do this. And I think an unfortunate side effect of that, as I've mentioned before, is a lot of people felt like, well, I'm just going to sit in my armchair and click vote yes on a budget proposal. I'm not going to get out there and do things. And I think that has been to Dash's detriment. And Dash getting its community back involved has been, it's like, well, we still have, we still pay people to do this stuff, to have full-time jobs doing this. But the rest of us can still do things. And I've noticed this, that even with new protocols that have massive treasuries, and Thorchain's one of the ones that has a very large treasury as well, but I've noticed that all of them still put a lot of emphasis on the community. Like you have like Chainlink had the Link Marines, and then the Dogecoin had like the Doge people, and then Thorchain has a Thorchads, and it's like they're putting a lot. It's like, well, but you can afford to do everything yourself, but that only goes so far. And so I'm very glad to see that a bunch of different groups are showing a whole lot of interest. And like, as you mentioned about like the areas of DCG's biz dev focus, with the marketing hub, we've had some people approach us to saying like, oh, well, we want to do a lot of, there's no Russian promotion, nothing in Russia. What's going on in Russia? And it's like, well, I don't know, because I don't speak Russian. And then they're like, well, we want to do stuff. It's like, okay, well, maybe you start your own marketing hub. And they're like, sure. But so, for example, we added Welter Dash, not like Lewis Welter, but as an admin to try to help out and start figuring out how to run a thing like this, because ultimately the community helps get things adopted everywhere it actually does. And then there's there's a German Twitter account that's been very active recently as well. And so, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. But so that's why it's good to have, yes.
But before shifting gears,
Yes.
please take that first part of what you said about
Yes.
the community driving everything and
Yes.
everyone getting involved. Make it a snippet and let's share that. I could not agree with that much more.
Yes.
And Torchain is a great example of it. And I hope we get on there soon. And soon, what I love about that is that I imagine all the different APIs that could connect into there and then have a lot of stuff happening powered by this Torchain and Dash integration. I just think it's amazing. And the way it's gotten to where it is right now, and Tor chats, if you guys are watching, we want to have Dash on Tor. But yeah, I just love this.
Yeah, so it's a never-ending kind of thing, which is why central planning ultimately can only do so much. At some point, you need the free market of demand and competition to go out there and just start, filling every kind of, niche and void available. But so we're talking about what DCG's working on. So, obviously, you guys hired Bruno. What was it, like 5 months ago?
I think, I'm not sure. I think it was either the beginning of October or the month prior to that. But yeah, it's been a little more than a quarter.
Yeah. So obviously there's a strategy, and there's obviously limited resources. And I'm not just talking about, physically, like everything is limited. I'm also talking about, compared to other big projects, Dash has a relatively lean amount of resources to deal with, especially for biz dev when everything's going towards development right now. But so what was it about Brazil that makes it a specific target? And also, like, what kind of cool stuff has Bruno managed to get done since he's got on board? Because a lot of us have just like seen like you and Omar, and that's it. And it's like a lot of people didn't, I guess, see that there's new people hired, and it's like, oh, awesome, we have a Brazil guy. This is awesome. So yeah.
Yeah. So when we started discussing what to do, we had a, a few long conversations or a lot of conversations internally to see where else we could go, that
Mm-hmm.
we could do stuff that would move the needle. So obviously, DCG, us, we haven't done a lot of stuff in Europe or Asia. And that was a initial thought. But then, given that we've done stuff in Latin America and the US, we said,
Mm-hmm.
well, because we don't have so many resources, maybe we can get more synergies there. So that was one thought. Also, another thought is that Brazil is a country with
Lots of
the
people.
most amount. Yeah, it's a large population. It's the
Mm-hmm.
second largest population country in the Americas, and they have the highest amount of startups. There's, startups running housing. There's, of course, all the large gig economy players
Mm-hmm.
there and all their local competitors. And unlike the rest of Latin America, we do not cover that with Spanish speaking. So we saw that it was an opportunity to start doing more businesses there. The DIF has made some investments in there, and it would complement the rest of activities, or it could complement some of the other activities we're doing, especially around Venezuela or the US, because either a lot of Brazilians go to the US or there's investment from American companies into Brazil. Brazil is right next to Venezuela, and we could either take some of the learnings and export there or vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. So we saw Brazil as number one, a place with a very large community, crypto community, a place with a lot of people with good income, and it plays into the synergies of the rest of the things we're doing in the Americas,
Mm-hmm.
where we understand the world is a huge place, and we would love to also do stuff in Europe and especially in Asia. But from there, having a person without multiplying the resources, it would mean to start almost by itself or by herself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Brazil was a better choice at this moment.
Yeah, and so like I know Rodrigo being on the DEF, being in Brazil, he's been instrumental in securing strategic partnerships and investments in that area. And so having not only him, but then another employee as well for DCG. Obviously, Rodrigo doesn't work for DCG, but that's a heavy emphasis on Brazil. So,
Totally.
yeah. So, what has come out of Brazil in the last, 6 months or so? I know there was I keep on forgetting BitFi. Was that within the last 6 months, or was that
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
before then?
Yeah, no. This is
Mm-hmm.
recent, and also we had our first integration there with an exchange called Big One,
Mm-hmm.
and
Which I just
we
love the name of
have
that exchange. But
yeah, and there's a bunch more of exchanges. We have an exchange that besides carrying crypto,
mm-hmm.
they also carry. They're a broker
Yeah.
to commodities, especially
Okay.
Brazilian commodities. So I think that's cool. So Brazil is a large fintech hub with a lot of innovators and people doing stuff. It's still a country that where there's problems to solve.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, Bruno with right before joining Dash, him working alongside Rodrigo and other Brazilian entrepreneurs, they put together something called the Crypto Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Crypto Valley is a town south of Sao Paulo where there's right now about 80 or 90 places that accept Dash. So just like El Salvador had their
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin Beach, we're figuring out how to bring in more partners, and maybe some travel partners or some hotel partners, and figuring out how to tell people that there's another place in
That's
the
like that.
Americas that you can travel and you can live off of crypto. So
And it's
unlike
not just New
Venezuela,
Hampshire and Venezuela.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
another one.
and unlike Venezuela, where a lot of people don't want to go due to safety reasons,
Mm-hmm.
Brazil is a lot more touristic friendly. So
Mm-hmm.
that is one major thing that has been done and it's been polished. And besides all these other integrations, and one that I want to talk about is one called AB20,
Mm-hmm.
ABO20 association. So I don't know. You
Yeah,
wanted to ask?
I saw the post about that. There was some the Dash Core Group Twitter account tweeted that out, and then the link to the announcement was an Instagram post in Portuguese, and some people were like, "What is this? I can't read Portuguese." So
Yes.
this is a good time to explain to everyone what it's all about.
Yes, and it's interesting because it came across as
Mm-hmm.
us bragging about Portuguese, and that
Mm-hmm.
was interesting. And I found interesting that you asked me because
Yeah.
um, it is not a major integration by itself, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's laying down the groundwork. The ABO20 is the Brazilian Online to Offline Association.
Yeah.
And this is basically the Chamber of Commerce for startups in Brazil. And there, all the major companies that are operating in Brazil online are there. There's Mercado Libre, there's Bitso, there's, I forgot the name of the largest exchange, and a lot that are non crypto related. So, what
Mm-hmm.
this happens is that thanks to the efforts of Bruno, we were accepted as another player there, and that's going to
Okay.
give us access to networking, connections, and having conversations with some of these other players. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully from there, soon we'll start to get some leads and some integrations. And what's really interesting is that these organizations and these potential integrations are not only to exchanges, which we have covered already almost, I think we are in two or three of the top five exchanges by volume in Brazil. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't have a lot more to cover in terms of volume, but we're already talking to some of these other companies that provide housing services, buying your bus tickets online and different marketplaces. So this is enabling us to be in front of the game changers for the real usage economy. And I think we have a good chance of connecting Dash into all these other ecosystems.
Yeah. So that's like the that's like a good bridge to the greater group. I would like to throw out a quick sentence about physical concentration. Never underestimate that. On a slightly undash related subject, that's one of the reasons why New Hampshire's on the map is because thousands of people decided to physically concentrate to maximize liberty in one spot, and it's the entire reason why this became a crypto hotspot. And that's also one of the reasons why it's one of the bigger dash hotspots is because as a crypto hotspot of concentrated people, and Dash is the best one to use for digital cash purposes. That kind of turned out, and so the Bitcoin Beach, I'm not super well educated on the history of it, but I have a strong suspicion it had a lot to do with the eventual legal tender laws and stuff in the country, at least as a core example. And Rodrigo did talk about the similar project in Brazil, and so it's kind of like wherever one of those gets set up and starts becoming successful, that's kind of indicative to where the rest of the country might be going.
Yes, totally. And again, back to why Brazil, we're looking
Mm-hmm.
for synergies.
Mm-hmm.
And, the closer we can get success and successful use cases to one another, the more they'll be able to replicate and the concentration within Latin America. And right now there's a lot of things happening there, not only Venezuela, which we've been working on and getting successes for years. Now there's El Salvador, and I'm pretty sure
Mm-hmm.
soon we'll start hearing more stuff from Brazil. We went to a conference in Paraguay at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
year to the organizers' surprise. There were a few legislators in the conference,
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of smaller countries looking at crypto and seeing what crypto can do for them, and we're just making sure that we don't miss out on any of these conversations.
Yeah, that makes sense to be kind of plugged in. One thing about BitFi in particular. So, BitFi, which by the way seems a lot like this Costa Rican integration, which I'm sure we can touch on too. But in that, I see in Latin America, there seems to be a lot of these all in one crypto solutions where, you know, you can connect your bank, you can buy some, you can sell some, you can pay bills with it, you can buy gift cards, you can, do all kinds of stuff with it. And so like BitFi seems like one of those. In fact, so the Dash Marketing Hub created a bounty to create videos kind of like we did on Dash Direct, but of people using Dash in Brazil through BitFi. And so far, no one has taken us up on the bounty yet. So there's money there for it. So if you, Ernesto, or anyone listening knows anyone in Brazil who would be willing to just sign up for BitFi and use it and put like a video on it, I believe it's 2.25 Dash right now. We just adjusted the bounties per for one of these videos. And so, that's like a couple $100 or something, so you can get paid in Dash, earn your Dash by actually using BitFi in the wild. So let me or Kanuka or anyone else know who's part of the hub, and yeah, we'd love some extra help with that.
Yeah, well, Luca, we spoke a couple hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching this, go use BitFi around your area. I know you're gonna love it.
Yeah. So let me just get to the next. So
I
it
mean,
appears.
yeah.
Yes.
While you're there, you mentioned Bitcoin Beach.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to share. I mean, Omar, myself, and Rodrigo went there for La BitConf, which is the largest. It's called the Latin American Bitcoin Conference, and it was an interesting trip. Um, I was eager to see what's going on in El Salvador and what's all the hype about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happily surprised.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of brand awareness on Bitcoin. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not good that the awareness of Bitcoin is, I would dare to say, 100%, maybe 99.99% related to the current president.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like any other topic that we can talk about that gets politicized. When
Yeah, of course.
a president decides to wear a mask or doesn't, and then there's all this debate about it, or
Mm-hmm.
when a president decides that electronic cars are good or not, and
Mm-hmm.
so on. So there's that. The conversation or the narrative is very politically driven.
Yes.
um, but nevertheless, a lot of people in El Salvador have been hearing and testing out wallets. The
Mm-hmm.
government did a massive airdrop, and the government is doing a lot of stuff to push the Bitcoin as a way of getting funds for the government of El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
On an adoption side, I found it to be quite similar to the things we've seen in Venezuela, where there's coverage for X amount of stores, but then maybe in some of these stores, the cashiers don't know how it works, even though
Mm-hmm.
they might have a sign that says, Chivo accepted here or Strike accepted here. So they're in that process that we've seen. Um, what they have that I found interesting is that there's quite a few crypto organizations, mostly Bitcoin only organizations that are laying their ground there and dedicating efforts. So I had the chance to speak to some of them, some which
Mm-hmm.
are partners of Dash, and they're dedicating resources to figure out how to grow in El Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
And off the record, I spoke to quite a few people that are working inside of the either close to the government or very very close to it. And what they've seen is that Usage on the streets is not so high,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some niches where things are happening. Like some people are paying the telephone, and other people are starting to move remittances. And it looks so far that usage is more tending to be outsiders sending
Yes.
money in, or the Salvadorians in the US paying the phone to their families and figuring out
Mm-hmm.
that they can do it through Bitcoin, mostly Lightning Network, and it works good. A lot of the ones I tried are custodial, so you can
Yeah.
debate whether that's Lightning or not, but that's not the point. The point I wanted to say is that this initiative, or this experiment of
Mm-hmm.
trying to have a whole country of 3 million inhabitants, 3 million something, use Bitcoin. It's I think it's good for the crypto industry overall. We went to
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin Beach, and there were a bunch of salespeople accepting Bitcoin as a payments method. It reminded me, to be honest, very much to what the guys from Dash Caracas did back in the day. So I see
Mm-hmm.
a lot of similarities. A huge difference is that getting the government go ahead,
Mm-hmm.
it's driving a lot of validation for the Bitcoin and crypto industry as a whole.
Yeah.
So it made me feel good about what we're all building, and I think there's going to be a lot more places that try to do this.
Yeah. Removing uncertainty for sure. So it seems like now we're talking about the next target market, the U.S., which it's kind of funny because old school Dash would not have been a U.S. focus. It kind of seems funny, like, well, that's only for the developing world. That's our target market. But the U.S. has become a little bit of a crypto hotspot for all kinds of things. I talked about the regulatory stuff on the last podcast, but uh, I believe, there was a job opening recently for a new U.S. biz dev person. So, yeah, Omar's getting some help in in that department soon.
Yeah, well, kind of. I'm sad to tell you that Omar is leaving the team.
Yeah, okay.
He's going on another route, and it's been great 4 years working with Omar.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've done is that we're looking for a replacement that
Mm-hmm.
not only will continue some of the projects we've had, but also push forward some of the initiatives we've had. And to continue on the line of thought you were just describing,
Mm-hmm.
when we joined, and Omar and I joined Dashcore Group with a few weeks apart.
Mm-hmm.
So when we joined this, it was mostly a developing markets opportunity. And
Yeah.
what we're seeing now in the US in particular is that for different reasons, people are now willing to use their crypto. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you follow the NFT space, but I have a
Yeah,
very good
I'm
friend.
trying to. In
You're
fact,
trying?
I'll be making some of my own in the coming weeks, probably.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah. So let me. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But I have a friend that is crazy about
Mm-hmm.
NFTs, and he's following that a lot. And he shared with me that there's a club in Miami that
Mm-hmm.
bought Board Ape Yacht Club.
Mm-hmm. He
Uh,
bought one NFT or bought
it
multiple or
bought an
what?
NFT.
Mm-hmm.
It bought one of the issues, one of the monkeys
Mm-hmm.
of the Board Apes. But
Mm-hmm.
what I found really interesting in this news is that this club said that not only were they accepting cryptocurrencies as a method of payment, but now they were also wanting to be part of this club.
Mm-hmm.
So this just comes to show you that right now it's going to be more and more non-traditional crypto organizations trying to jump on the crypto bandwagon. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why what we're doing in the US is we're looking to bring people with payments experience,
Yeah.
so that more than just the experience, maybe they'll also have some fresh connections in the payments world, and we can
Mm-hmm.
start talking to some of these companies. We've already spoken to a few of them, and we've realized, to our surprise, that even some of the bigger ones are building crypto teams.
Of
So
course.
what I've seen is that not necessarily they want to start, turning on crypto payments, but they're very serious about crypto rewards. So pay on this points of sale, and you can get, what they told me is a few satoshis of a reward. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I was like, okay, cool, let's do the exercise. Let me send you, what's the reward going to be? $3. Let me send you $3 of Bitcoin. Then they said, well, maybe that's not as good as we thought. And,
Next, try
that's when,
Shiba. It's even worse.
oh, really? So,
Yeah,
so
because it's on
anyways,
the Ethereum blockchain, so it's like a $20 fee.
oh, I didn't know that Shiba was an
Hmm.
Ethereum token.
Yeah, Doge is
Anyways,
not. But anyway, that's a little bit of a sidetrack.
but yeah, I mean, the point is, many of these organizations are looking to start doing stuff with crypto. And that's why the position you saw was, we want to bring somebody with either a lot of payments experience,
Hmm.
or maybe the closest thing to it,
Yeah.
credit, lending, fintech. So we're advanced on this process already. We've gotten some nice candidates, and soon we'll have the person that will take over the realm for Walmart. If anybody from the community has somebody that they can send over, please just go to, I think it's jobs at dash.org, or the post I'll share later, and we'll
Yeah.
be very happy to talk to them.
Let me test the URL really quick. I think it's dash.org/jobs. Let me see if that works. Yeah, but it redirects to dash.org/DCG/jobs. But dash.org/jobs will get you there. Yeah. So
Cool.
uh,
Thank you.
that's one thing. It's funny you mentioned the NFT thing, and I won't go into it too much right now. But one thing I I'm starting to see that the NFTs are the first mass adoption vehicle in crypto. It's the first thing I've seen random people jump straight to where they're not crypto people. They just go straight to NFTs. And I do kind of believe that while there's a big NFT bubble as far as everyone's making garbage, kind of, a lot of people are making garbage and it's way overpriced, and that's going to go down. I do think that NFTs are going to kind of not have the same bear market as crypto necessarily. Doesn't mean that some of the prices and collections and stuff won't have a dip, but just because people are artists and stuff are realizing there's a new way to monetize their work, and they're not going to just stop trying to monetize their work when the crypto markets dip. So I can kind of see like NFTs as the funnel where like everyone's doing a lot of new things with that, even when crypto's dipping temporarily, and they're going to want to know how to spend their money on that. And so having a dash to whatever NFT ecosystem bridge in some way, whether it's like a good exchange or whether it's like a lot of NFTs made on Ethereum, hopefully not because of the fees, then like Thorchain helps you get to Dash and then spend it in the real world. I think that's going to be pretty huge. But so as far as you're talking about payment
Yeah,
processors and
yeah.
stuff,
But but
yeah.
but
So
I have
go
a
ahead.
question for you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something.
Yes.
We've been approached by different teams that make NFTs,
Mm-hmm.
and I genuinely wonder, given that right now we don't have that capability on Dash, and we
Mm-hmm.
could soon with Dash platform, because if you can
Yeah.
store names on the platform, and what's his name, README,
Mm-hmm.
was toying with it. Do you think that there's something we can do to start getting some Dash NFTs out there, and then switching them over to Dash, or like, have you thought about that? Because that's something that I would really love. And there's another component to it. When you see all these people using the ape as their
Yeah.
profile picture, it just gives more
Credence.
awareness to that. So I was just wondering, what do you think? Do you think we should do something temporarily and then migrate, or what's your take there?
So yeah, that's where it's that's a several hour conversation, I'm sure, but I'll give a quick short take here. uh, I do think it's worth getting into NFTs as soon as possible, and chains that can't do that will end up being left behind. Now, right now on the protocol, just like with Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV, you can make some really rudimentary kind of MFTs by like putting them in opcode data. Uh, Now, Bitcoin SV puts the entire the image file or a video file, or whatever, on the blockchain itself as well, which is kind of strange. I don't know if that's sustainable, but that's a different thing. Well, here's the thing. So I have experimented mostly with Wax NFTs on the Wax blockchain,
Okay.
and you can make them burnable, like you can destroy them. And so, for example, one thing, I'm probably going to produce mine on that blockchain, and then if at some point down the line there's a better, I need to migrate, I would just burn and reissue for people that want them on a better chain. If that's the case, I might just be using Wax forever. Who knows? So there is a possibility of like doing that kind of a thing. If you have like an old NFT, you want to make a better one. But, and this is a huge rabbit hole, but there's some concept, I don't know if it's been approved yet, but for the Dash incubator to make something called like Smart Dash. Bitcoin Cash basically made something called Smart BCH, which is a EVM compatible sidechain that uses Tendermint consensus and some interesting parallelization stuff. It's basically it's basically like Binance Smart Chain. It's like its own thing, its own smart contract platform. That the way it's tied back into Bitcoin Cash is two things. One of them is they use proof of hash rate in order to run a node. So it's delegated proof of work, sort of, which a Dash allegory for that would just be your masternode key will let you run one of these things. So, like, kind of bind with the masternodes. And then they have a bridge from Bitcoin Cash to Smart BCH tokens. And it allows you to kind of swap over into that. Kind of like how it's not, I think they're working on a decentralized bridge. I can't remember the status of that right now. It was centralized before. But basically, it could be like the way Dash platform, like platform credits get swapped from Dash, and then you're in this whole different ecosystem. So this, if it's developed, hopefully could be produced because it's already been done. And this hopefully could be deployed on Dash soon, like not too long, and without actually changing the core protocol of Dash at all. It's literally like a plug on top of thing. And then later, that could possibly be made like the smart Dash nodes could be part of the masternode infrastructure protocol level at a later date if we can figure out how to merge those systems. So that's some way you could actually start creating like real NFTs and NFT marketplaces and stuff like that on Dash relatively soon. And that would be pretty cool if you could just say, build your NFTs on Dash, because if you can, the money you make from that you can just spend right away. You don't have to like hook up Ethereum to your Coinbase and send it over and transaction fees and then KYC and all this stuff. You could just make your NFTs, sell them, spend the money, and then or get paid in Dash, spend it on your groceries and all this stuff, and then the remaining stuff you use to buy NFTs natively without having to swap things over or mess around with MetaMask or whatever else. So that's the very short of this giant issue.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about like the U.S. systems and like brokerages and stuff like that, and payment things. Are there any? What's the most specific information you can give on that stuff? Like, are there any names you can mention that you've talked to, or you're going after things like this, or have just whatever specifics on like the U.S. strategy would be fantastic.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've spoken to a handful of large and mid-sized companies in the U.S. And while I don't want to give names because it usually ruins the possibilities of us getting integrated, what I can tell you is that from our experience with Venezuela, we learned that it takes more or less the same time to get integrated into a chain of stores, whether that's 3 or 4 stores or 20 or 100, or a points of sale company. So we're targeting points of sale companies because we could try to go after, for example, Church's Chicken, which is integrated in Venezuela, but more or less the same time that it would take us to get there could get us a mid-sized payments company with thousands of points of sale, and that creates, that
Mm-hmm.
density that we were speaking about earlier. So that's the approach we're taking there, and that's where we started. And to be honest, we're still very early in the process. But what we've seen is that these companies,
Mm-hmm.
on the 2018 or 2019 version of Money 2020, a conference,
Yeah.
we spoke to one of these large companies, and they weren't being rude, but they literally laughed about cryptocurrencies. They were like, hey, can you imagine if we tell our boss to integrate cryptos? Ha, and they just had a laugh. And now the same type of companies that were laughing about cryptos, they're really interested, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
my boss told me I need to do some crypto stuff, so let's work together. So where we stand in the US is that larger corporations, because the way they operate, are going to be a longer process than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so far it has not been a negative entry conversations. Is that fair
Yeah.
enough?
Yeah. That's definitely uh, the big barriers in the US, because like a lot of times hype hits and then US actors integrate crypto. It's just like it's almost too easy in some cases, right? But one thing that's been sad to see with Dash is it's been excluded from a lot of these payment kind of things because it bit license, right? It's not, Dash is not a bit licensed coin because the New York regulators are idiots. No, no offense, but probably they are. And because BitPay and Coinbase Commerce won't integrate Dash, and because of that, I'm sure a lot of other point of sale companies in the U.S. will not do that. And so, just so you know, by the way, guys, anyone, again, left always throwing it out to the community. There's a general action bounty in the Dash Marketing Hub, and there's, I believe, if it got adjusted, there should be like a 15 Dash bounty. You can get 15 Dash if you manage to get Gemini on board with Dash, if you manage to get BitPay, if you manage to get Coinbase Commerce. And obviously, that kind of stuff it's not just like you call them up and they say, sure, right? Obviously, people have been trying for many years. But I'm just having that out there so we get more people trying, more demand out there, more until finally you get someone like, Coinbase saying, you know what, we'd really like to have, like, we get all this noise and all this demand and stuff. Let's just try to set up another meeting with the New York regulators and see what we can get done. So
Yeah.
those bounties are out there to get things going. Just
Yeah,
thought I should let people know.
let me cooperate with that bounty.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone from the community has real, possibilities of getting conversations started with these organizations, we can talk and we could take over all of the heavy lifting. If there's a need to cover some integration costs because there's some coding
Mm-hmm.
that needs to happen, you don't need to take that from the 15 dash. I mean, although I'm sure you could find a bit more, but what I'm saying is we can
Yeah.
help and drive the thing forward if there's and it doesn't need to be only these huge companies. There's quite a
Yeah.
few ATM companies. Where we stand right now in New York is that we can apply for the bit license with a partner. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we've been doing this, and we reach out to certain partners that we know, but
Mm-hmm.
who knows? Maybe there's someone in the community with really good connections with, BitPay or an ATM company, and they're not doing it because maybe it's expensive for them to build the Dash integration. So we can figure out a way of doing this together. And if anyone from the community has that, you can work and keep the Dash Bounty Hub,
Mm-hmm.
the Dash Marketing Hub bounty, and
Yeah.
we can help with the other part. So I just wanted to bring more value to that offer.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good. And I'm sure if there needs to be some sort of an integration thing that's outside of whatever DCG scope, I'm sure it'd be easy for the incubator to make their own development bounty on something like that. Again, the entire the Dash ecosystem is much bigger I would say. Like the community ecosystem is much more. It's hard to say bigger. I don't think it's bigger as far as like more people or even more money, but it's as far as the firepower of it could be considered is bigger than it's been in a long time. As far as the different actors that like the between the diff, the incubator, DCG, the marketing hub, that all are able to actually get things done together and have worked in good synergy that we haven't really seen much in the past. And so basically that's one reason I'm throwing out these kinds of bounties is just to get people moving, because once someone gets the foot in the door, starts saying, hey, like I know a guy who this or that, or I happen to be at the bar and then someone walked up and they say they work for BitPay, and then we got in, and then they want to talk to someone who can do, like, then it gets going. And that's just what I'm trying to get done here.
Yep, I agree with you.
Yeah, so it seems like DCG's biz dev strategy is heavily Americas focused, from the U.S. to obviously Venezuela, obviously Brazil now explicitly, and then countries in between. And the Americas are quite a large region, but also not exclusive, not the majority of the world. There's a lot of people everywhere else. And so a couple of questions on that. Well, first off, why is this obviously, if I were to guess, it seems like let's concentrate our resources rather than just have one person spend like 5 minutes a month on each country or whatever, spreading it too thin. It seems like a concentration strategy as far as resources are concerned. So why the Americas specifically? And then second, when we're talking about success and mass adoption and stuff like that, what are kind of metrics we're hoping towards? Like, for example, how many daily transactions through a payment processor, or how, what kind of, or how many new wallet downloads for a specific app or whatever. What are the kind of metrics we're looking at to gauge success in this, this dual region here?
Yeah. So I want to clarify that our concentration in the Americas is more related to the hunting of opportunities. What we've seen is that when we're concentrated, number one, we're on the same time zone. And number two, there's always introductions that happens when, for example, we were speaking to a neobank this week, and the neobank works with a custodial solution that is one we've been trying to get into for some time. So, now you're talking to this custody solution, and not only they have the Dash team telling them, hey, at Dash, we can get you clients and we can get you volume. Now their client is saying, hey, we want to add Dash. So that just increases the possibilities of success for us. And number two, this does not mean that we're not looking at the rest of the world. This just means that there's only a few exchanges in the rest of the world that we're not on right now. And what's it called? Is it Bit? You tweeted about it in Money 2020. It's the large European exchange. It sounds like Bitfinex, Bitstamp. So, for example, Bitstamp is one of the few large exchanges that we're not on. We've spoken to them, and we hope to get that closed soon, just like we got Coinbase. So, what we want to say is that we continue doing a trading strategy globally. We continue reaching out to those large exchanges and large service providers that still don't have Dash. But in terms of use cases of actually paying with things with Dash or points of sale, what we've seen is that there's more opportunities to get success in this area of the world because we have synergies. And what are the 3 KPIs that I look at in terms of success is, number one, the number of integrations. Number two, within that integration, what's the number of users that we can get? And within those number of users, what are the volumes that we're getting? For example, and it's very complicated for us as a protocol to get that data, because many times the partners consider that, confidential information. And even though they agree that they would share, not all the time can they share. So what we do is we always figure out ways to get that data. For example, in Venezuela, we've gotten some agreements with some supermarkets, and we
Mm-hmm.
get one or two supermarkets data every couple of months, and that just serves as a compass for what could be happening in the rest of the country. So what we've seen there is that people prefer to pay with Dash overall in numbers of
Mm-hmm.
transaction, even though the volumes are higher in Bitcoin, for example, than in Dash. But in total number of transactions, most months Dash leads even to any other crypto.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still not large enough numbers of transactions, and I think crypto buyers shared that data a couple of months ago. But
Yeah.
that's the approach we take to measure whether we're doing something that can drive mass transactions or it
Mm-hmm.
cannot. And that same principle we're doing with the integrations we're getting in Brazil and the ones that we will get in the US.
Yeah. So you have a hard out very soon, don't you?
Yeah, I think we can stay for another 15 more minutes without a problem.
Okay. So, um, we're talking about the transaction thing. This is something that's gotten me thinking because I've been in crypto almost 9 years now, and seen a lot of stuff, seen the adoption curves, and one thing that I've definitely noticed is no one in the past, pretty much no one used crypto. It was just Bitcoin, and even then, very rarely, and just like move around from exchanges a lot of times. And something interesting happened in the last few years, which is you saw transaction volumes for other chains sometimes start to go way up in terms of like usage. And some of this is just like faked stuff, like, oh, someone had a bot running. But then in cryptofees.info is a great site because it shows the total amount of fees generated by the network, which is not a perfect metric, but it's one of the best adoption networks like metrics we can have because Ethereum's number one because it just everyone's paying a ton of fees. Binance Smart Chain, I believe, is number two because even though the fees are much lower than Ethereum, there's a lot of activity on there. So on the whole, it's still generating a lot of revenue. And then you see a lot of these more DeFi based, of course, Bitcoin's on there, but then you see a bunch of more DeFi based platforms like, say, Avalanche and stuff are high up there. And then you see like way at the bottom, or some things aren't used as much. It's so obviously what I would like to see, what basically the sustainability for crypto projects, now that we're past the experimentation stage, we're starting to get adoption, is actual usage. And there's a couple things for this in terms of, for example, Thorchain. Dash needs a lot of volume on that when it happens. You need a lot of people going in and out of Dash and making the liquidity providers rich on that side. Masternode rewards, like Masternode's about like 5% a year, which for staking, it's not staking, but for that kind of thing, is pretty low for the crypto industry standards. And increasing inflation or doing a bunch of other things like that might be very damaging. But what does help is if there's fees that they process. If you start shoving fees through the network, and of course, making Dash expensive is not going to help, but getting lots of Dash activity is going to help. And so, like for example, I think we have a great base for this, where we have like Crypto Buyer, where you can spend Dash in a lot of places in Venezuela, for example. And same thing with Dash Direct. You could spend it very soon, I guess, everywhere in the US. And that's going to be cool. But as far as like the volumes of people doing that, that's the thing we have to figure out because there's like something like equivalent of 5 people spending transactions per day in Venezuela and Dash, or I don't know exactly know what the numbers are, but they're low enough to where they could be construed as being people paid by Dash are spending Dash and very few other people. Now, of course, I know the truth is a little bit more nuanced than that, but at some point we're going to need like hundreds and then thousands of transactions a day for these kind of payment situations. So what I would kind of think, and this is a question that I ask myself because I'm trying to solve this problem and I don't know exactly what to do. I know people in New Hampshire who love crypto who are willing to spend it, but there's like a few dozen of us, or a few hundred of us, or whatever it is that are active. So I'm just trying to figure out, but what ideas do you have on ways that we can, now that we've laid a good adoption like ground, uh, to actually make water those plants, so to speak, and get them to grow and get those transaction volumes to actually start going up?
Yeah, that's a very complex question, but I'll give you some rough numbers that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I've seen is that on larger chains of supermarkets where we
Mm-hmm.
do get actual raw data,
Yeah.
and they just send us an email with all the data by day and stuff, and then we transform that into information. And what I've seen is that on an average month, when Dash is not gone up
Mm-hmm.
significantly or down significantly, because that changes the behavior of people,
Mm-hmm.
on an average month on one of these chains, we have between 150 and 200 people spending Dash per month.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one chain. And we have about 6 or 7 large chains of this, plus
Mm-hmm.
about more than 1,000 other places. So this makes me believe that per month we're somewhere, close to maybe between 3 to 5,000 times of usage,
Mm-hmm.
and that is orders of magnitude higher than the amount of people that are getting paid in Dash.
Mm-hmm.
So besides, Leury and the
Mm-hmm.
Dash Techs and Dash Health teams, whom I've confirmed that they use about 20% of the Dash they get to
Yeah.
go out and make payments and stuff. The other stuff they either change for paying their rent or change for, stabilizing in a dollar and then paying it out. So there's definitely a group of people that are seeing that you can pay with Dash and solving
Mm-hmm.
problems. This is Venezuela specifically.
Of course.
What we saw is that when we started doing the payroll program, we started, of course, with less than a dozen people, and it went up to about 100 people in total.
Mm-hmm.
So when we went from 50 to 100, the amount of transactions in these two supermarkets that we do monitor doubled.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're seeing is that when people start getting paid in Dash, they use it. So
Yeah.
that's where we're putting all of our focus now. And I think that's easily convertible to the other countries, because it makes sense. Who in their right mind wants to buy a crypto to then go and spend the same crypto that they bought? What happens is either you get a masternode payout, or you buy your penguin NFT and it goes up in price, and then you use some of that profit.
Yeah.
So what we've seen is that you have to make it easy for people to receive crypto, so they'll be willing to go and use that as digital cash.
Yeah. So that sounds like a good, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but the scientific method, what you do is you have a hypothesis and you test it by running experiments and controlling for outside factors and stuff. And while obviously there's a lot more variables to this, it seems like something that I would agree with those findings. Is it in my hypothesis? Again, I haven't run any experiments myself, but it seems like you get paid in crypto, you will spend crypto. That seems like, and obviously it's true with my life. I start getting paid in crypto, and that's what I spend. Yeah, go ahead
Yeah.
before I jump in.
And I just wanted to say that it does not necessarily have to be paid as part of a payroll. We were
Mm-hmm.
speaking to a fintech company that wants to do remittances to the US, because what happens is there's thousands and thousands of people that go to the US to
Mm-hmm.
study, and sometimes giving them money is not that easy. So if we crack the nut of figuring out how they can, instead of sending $2,000 a month from, the Western European countries to the US because the guys are studying, in Florida State University. If instead of going through the regular banking system, they use crypto, number one, the guys are going to get their money much faster. It's going to be much cheaper. And then some of that money will probably be spent on Dash Direct or other solutions. So these are some of the findings that we took from broken economies and are now working to get with some of the partners we have.
Yeah. Now I would, because this is the thing I've been like thinking about is, because it's funny because crypto is such a fascinating thing, and I've been in for, as I said, getting close to 10 years, and I still like, sometimes I'll be in the middle of something I like, watching a movie, or I'll be, having good dinner, or like out with friends, and something will I'll remember something about crypto, and then all I want to do is just get back home and get to work again, because it's still really exciting to me. And part of it is because the more I learn about crypto, the more I learn about the way the world works, and because everything I learned about crypto is like, I didn't know anything about investing before I learned about crypto, and now I know about the old school investing. I didn't know anything about all this kind of stuff, and I'm trying to wrap my head around about this is a great technology, and the payment side of it is starting to get there, but no one wants to use it still. How do we get them to use it? And I started to sort of realize that like the Bitcoin store of value thing got people to have Bitcoin, to want to get paid in it first. And then now they're trying to spend it where they weren't otherwise. And Dash is off their radar completely as far as like to buy something. A lot of people got into Dash in 2017. I didn't really think of it like this at the time, but now I'm starting to realize this was the case, because Dash was the big staking coin where you could make a lot of money if you could get, $10 Dash, you could get for $10,000, you could get a master, and then the price would go up, and you could live off of that passive income for the rest of your life. That was kind of the reason people jumped in. And now there's huge staking competition when Dash is lower on the list now with that. And then the thing with NFTs are like, artists have had difficulty getting paid in the past, and creators have a difficulty getting paid in certain ways. And then content creators such as myself have we try to run advertisements, or like ask for donations, or like do a bunch of different things, or shill our Binance referral link like they all do, right? But now you can just sell an NFT and you make money off of that, and now that's a new income source that didn't exist. That's how people are getting paid in crypto. It's like, the first is buy and hold. I mean, that'll only work for so long. But then staking, and then after that is crypto unique revenue streams, such as NFTs. And so it would be great if Dash had native NFTs at some point. It would also be great if Dash had better staking things. But the thing is, things like Thorchain will allow you to get a lot, like it'll have competition for yield on Dash from masternodes. It's not just, well, you put in a masternode, you get 5%. It's like, well, you could make 20% providing liquidity on Thorchain, and so then more people jump into that, and it evens out to like 12%. Masters go up to 8% or whatever, and it becomes more profitable to hold Dash. And Bitcoin can't compete on the long term because you can only get to do like Thorchain and things like that. There's no masternode thing to like compete with to drive both prices up. But so staking, if you can get people say buy Dash, stake it, get and spend your rewards, you get them to spend it. Or if you say make your NFTs, spend it in Dash. If you make a native Dash NFT, of course you can spend it in Dash, of course. Again, when that happens, if that happens. But also if we can find a way to be a good bridge from popular NFT chains, like have an easy instant swap for very good rates from Solana to Dash, from Wax to Dash, from obviously Ethereum to Dash. That's a little more complicated. From Ethereum L2s to Dash. That's a thing I haven't even thought about until recently. From, whatever else, from Binance, from whatever else, that'll be an interesting thing. So that's just an idea I have, but what are some other strategies you've been thinking of to try to pursue to get people actually paid in Dash, so therefore they'll want to spend it.
Yeah. So I mean, the big challenge so far is that crypto as a payments tool has not happened
Mm-hmm.
massively, or even in the narrative up to El Salvador. Nobody in Bitcoin was saying spend your Bitcoin. They were actually saying save it and number go up. But
Mm-hmm.
now that the narrative has gone from just hodl to let's
Mm-hmm.
use this, there's the door is opening for coins that are actually more efficient to use to shine. And like you're saying, it just blew my mind because we
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily need to allow people to make NFTs if
Mm-hmm.
we are the best way for you to use some of that NFT money in real life, then people will actually flock to Dash. It's not about creating something, it's
Yeah.
about what is the problem that we can solve. And we were in Miami for a sponsorship, a small sponsorship that Dash did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thrilled to see that, like you're saying, all these artists now have a way of getting a new revenue source, selling some of their creations. And many of them, they don't really care if it's Ethereum, Wax, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. They just want to be able to sell them. So
Yeah.
if we serve this new type of demography that is getting a new revenue source, and we tell them, hey, you don't need to go through all of these hurdles to change your money. You can actually spend some of it in these 160,000 places. That's another. It doesn't need to be payroll all the time, like you're saying.
Yeah. That's the NFT bridge is going to be very interesting for sure. It's so let me see if there's any other pressing the outstanding questions. Oh, first off, just when is the next quarterly call? Because anything else will push off to that.
Yes, I mean, please, it's a secret. Don't share it, but it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be 99.9% sure that's going to happen next week. It
Okay.
will be announced soon, but it's sorry, guys. I was pressured to say this.
Yes, of
No,
course.
I'm kidding.
People are going to be
I'm
all.
kidding. But yeah, it's planned to happen next week. What happens there, and just to give the community a bit more of context, is we want to present a clear picture, and sometimes either technology or Ryan, they need to get one response from something or
Mm-hmm.
one piece of data, and they're promised that they will get that piece of data or that response by Friday or Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they don't get that piece of data, then they won't be able to share when will be the next sprint finished, or when will be the how was our transaction count last quarter or something. So that's why usually we move it a little bit more or a little bit less to a month after the quarter.
Yeah. It's so. Um, I think that's probably a decent place to just wrap the whole thing up. Um, there's like an endless number of things to talk about, but you'd said that you had a hard out 20 minutes ago, and then he said, "Oh, I can stay on for another 15 minutes." So I do want to be respectful of your time, especially since I didn't even ask you to be on initially. You came in without like with 12 hours notice basically. So I think not quite 12, but close to it. And so yeah, I want to thank you for that. So yeah, thanks for being on, and all these other questions. uh, if you have, oh, hold on. Did I? Ooh, I might have gotten a super chat. In which case, we'll do one more and then we will wrap that up. But any questions that you have, put in. Um, I guess what is it the best place in Discord, the Dash Core group channel.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of meetings now, and I'll get back to Discord either later tonight or early tomorrow, But yeah, I'll make sure to respond many of these questions. And if some of the questions are going to be answered on the quarterly call, I'll just mention it there.
Yeah, and so that's basically all the spillover. Let me just see what this one is. Um, why has Dasher Pay been utilized with businesses beyond, or why hasn't it? I guess beyond trials with
Yeah.
volunteers. Are there legal issues in Venezuela in using Dasher Pay?
Yeah. What we've seen is that when we want to take Dasher Pay to the next level and, go
Mm-hmm.
to the largest chains in the country, our initial informal conversations have shown that they want
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that it's 100% legal. So the Dasher Pay team went to the local authority and say, hey, we're doing this. It's not an exchange, but it's a crypto service. I want to get a legal or a letter of authorization. So that has taken much longer than it should. In my opinion, it's a very simple process, but that's not how governments work. So what we've done in the meantime is that we haven't stopped. We've continued to go with smaller organizations that are not so formal. And the reason is, large organizations are always careful
Mm-hmm.
because you can get a big fine or you can get shut down for a couple of days if you don't do with what the
Mm-hmm.
regulators say. And
Yeah.
Venezuela is particularly way more complex than other places, and that's why they're very careful. But the great news is that some business that we've
Mm-hmm.
either built or helped to build in Venezuela are now literally talking to El Salvador and other
Mm-hmm.
organizations. So some of these solutions that have been built in Dash could be exported to El Salvador, maybe the US or Paraguay. So soon we'll see that,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully at least one of these organizations takes that solution and implements somewhere else.
Yeah. So basically, the on a very kind of localized level, the Dasher Pay thing turned out to work really well, and there's some regulatory hurdles to still clear before expanding it through Venezuela, but the system itself has proved itself as a proof of concept, and then you can kind of export it to other countries where there might not be the same legal hurdles. Is that kind of the summary of the point?
Yeah, that's a great summary of it. I mean, technically, it's working really great.
Mm-hmm.
The Dash Text team is improving a little bit of the UX, but what happens is the HR person has one website where they log in and they say, who are the employees? Joel, Ernesto,
Mm-hmm.
um, Arden, Glenn, whatever. And then they put how much is everyone getting paid. Joel is getting $100, Ernesto 125, and so on. And then they basically top up that wallet. And with a click of a button, whenever they say the $120, regardless of Dash being $100 or
Mm-hmm.
$400 at the day, the employees get paid that amount. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
very good tool. And it's something that technically and from an UX perspective, the HR people accept already. And we've been
Mm-hmm.
working more on the other components, like what happens when Joel gets paid and then the price of Dash crashes. How do we help him
That hits close
deal
to
with
home,
that?
man.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done, and it was really interesting to see this because you're a crypto
Mm-hmm.
fanatic. So for you, you know that it's gonna go down and then it's gonna go up again. But what
Mm-hmm.
happens when people outside of crypto leaves that? So what we've
Yeah.
seen in short, and I do gotta go now, is that um, we need to educate people on how to make. And it's funny because you were saying it earlier
Yeah.
in the conversation. We need to tell them, hey, do you have a budget for what you're going to do? What are you going to use
Mm-hmm.
this money for? Are you going to save it for a month or 2 months? Well, if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
a budget, then go do your budget. And once you budget, if this is your crypto money, then
Mm-hmm.
you can keep it in Dash. If you want to change it for other coins, there's Storechain, there's Binance. If you want to use a stable coin, you can use Exodus or another wallet to change it for a stable coin. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole process, and we have a 3 month training process for the people that get paid in crypto. So we
Mm-hmm.
turn a non-crypto person into a crypto 101 knowledge type of person. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a long process, and we're ready to make it grow with larger organizations or
Yeah.
export it outside of the country.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Well, thanks for being on. We're going to have lots of questions, I'm sure, after this because we covered a lot of ground. And I'm sure all that'll go into the Dash Core group channel in the Dash Discord, which you go to going to staydashy.com. And also, as is, before I go to the after party thing, there was a demand like a few weeks ago for a lot of people are saying like the Dash Direct virtual MasterCard release is such a big one, and they need all hands on deck for some sort of like marketing push for that. And so my group, Dash Marketing Hub, put in a proposal for extra funding just for that to see if there was kind of interest in that. There was a lot of interest in that, but at the last minute it didn't pass, and I was like, all right, well, I guess we do our usual stuff. However, a bunch of masters have since then been saying like we'd like to actually donate to an advertising only campaign from the Marketing Hub. And so because of the demand, we put up an address that's a separate from our main funding address. It's just for boosting posts and stuff for just this purpose. And so it's pinned in the Dash Marketing Hub channel in the Dash Discord, and we will post on all our other areas as well. So for people who were looking to donate, there you go. And we will use all of that just for boosting, as in on social media, boost social media posts, or run an advertisement, but like not to like all our other budget is like pay people to like make videos that we can send as ads or admin fees or like whatever else that runs the machine. But this is just for boost. So yeah, if you want to go donate to that, I think it's also in like some of the other channels like the M&O polls channel or whatever. But that's just the one place it is right now. I got it up right before jumping on the podcast, so I haven't put it a lot of other places, but it is there. So just so you guys know. And okay, so now to really quickly wrap this up, it's after party time. So if you want to hang out with us, or Ernesto's got to go, but it'll be me and some other people. You go to the Dash Discord, staydashy.com, get in there, and just ask around, hey, where's the after party? I want to get in the after party, and I will send you a link, and we'll get in. And I'm sure it's going to be going. There's going to be a lot of chat and everything else up until the wee hours of the morning. I won't be there the whole time. I do have to eat, and I do, have a life too. But I'll be there for a long time with that tonight. So There you go. Any final words?
Well, just follow us. We're going to announce the quarterly call soon, and I'm really excited that we're going to have the platform launch this year. We're preparing a bunch of stuff, and besides that, we're working on a lot of real-world usage and adoption projects for this year. So this year is going to be amazing for Dash, and I'm really happy to be here and be part of this evolution.
Hey, likewise. All right, guys. Regular Digital Cash Rundown next week. I'll see you guys in a week or in a few minutes for the after party. Thanks, Ernesto, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.